Zimmerman, an Hispanic member of his local neighborhood watch in Florida, was cleared of murdering Trayvon Martin, an unarmed black teenager.
Most of the demonstrations have been peaceful. The biggest protest was in New York, where a small rally grew into a crowd of thousands. The Justice Department says it is investigating whether a civil case can be brought against Mr. Zimmerman. Well, Fred Weiss is an American attorney and writer, and he's here with me now. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me on the program.
So, Florida has a stand your ground law which allows people to use deadly force to defend themselves and not flee from a situation. Was this the fact that effectively allowed him to be cleared?
I believe it made his defense much more viable, that he could invoke what's called the stand your ground law. 16 states in the United States, many of them in the South, have the stand your ground law. Florida is one of them. It was a law that was pushed by private interests, by gun lobbies, to make it easier for people to use deadly force when there's altercations. When I was in law school, and for hundreds of years before I was even born, the basic jurisprudence in England and America was if you're attacked and you have an obligation to find a way to retreat, and you can retreat, you can't use deadly force to defend yourself. You have to try to retreat, and if you can retreat, you must retreat. The stand your ground law changes that radically. It makes it a subjective standard. If you reasonably believe that someone attacking you is going to hurt you, you can pull out a gun and shoot them immediately. You don't have to run away. You don't have to even try to escape. And that's, I think, had a terrible effect on our country. It's turned those states that have passed this law into sort of the Wild West, where a simple fender bender on a highway can quickly escalate into angry words. Under the old law, run away. Under the new law, you can just shoot him. Here, in the case of Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, there are certain very compelling facts which I think the Justice Department will investigate and the President should champion. First of all, Trayvon Martin was just 17 years old. He left his uncle's house to buy Twizzlers and a soft drink at the 7-Eleven. Who hasn't done that in their life? There's an expectation that when you do that, you're going to get home in one piece. George Zimmerman, who was part of a neighborhood watch, called the police. The police told him to stand down. Thank you for reporting it. Don't go near him. You're not a police officer. You're just a person. He disregarded this information, and he pursued him. What happened after that is a question of contention. The sides disagree.
And his defense was that he was wrestled to the ground by the teenager and fired the gun in self-defense.
That's right. And one of the witnesses said they heard Trayvon Martin say, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you following me? Why are you chasing me?" But what's not in dispute, at one point they were wrestling on the ground, a weapon was pulled, Trayvon Martin died, George Zimmerman lived, and unfortunately, the only witness to what really happened is George Zimmerman. Trayvon Martin has no voice here because he's dead, and that's the great tragedy here. That while most of the demonstrations have discussed the tragedy of a young person of color being killed, and it's a terrible tragedy, the tragedy is even much worse than that, because the tragedy is that if a society empowers people to take guns out when they feel in their heart, even if they feel in their heart they're provoked, the chance for violence is so much greater in all cultures, not just against people of colors, but our own children, ourselves if we're on the highway, getting in a fight in the bar. What was in the old days could just be an argument in a bar, can now escalate into someone taking a gun out and shooting you. And that's why I believe, I've read most of the British papers, the stand your ground law has only been mentioned in passing on several of them. The real issue has been how a private group could get a government, in this case the legislature of Florida, to pass a law, the stand your ground law. And they submitted model laws in numerous other states, 16 of which have passed them, which basically says to someone, if you feel that you're under attack, you can take out a gun and kill someone. It's outrageous in the 21st century that this is happening. And I think the greatest honor we can do for Trayvon Martin would be if the President lobbied every country, every state individually and said, not in America. And to the people of Great Britain, I would hope that they would also learn from this and make sure that private lobby groups can't pass laws like this that end so disastrously for so many people.
Fred Weiss, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on the show.